everybody. This is Amazing Fantasy Football. I am Josh. That guy
And
is.
I'm Chris. I jumped the gun. And I am Chris.
And Chris, he always is. We're Amazing Fantasy Football. We're here to talk about some matchups this week. We got a couple of news things to start off with. One is not so fantasy relevant, but this past week, this is going to lead into a little PSA, so just bear with me, folks. This past week,
Hold on to your
Henry
butts.
Ruggs was arrested and charged with a felony DUI resulting in
One death of a
fatality
human.
or something, which is
One
more or
yes.
less just means
And a
drunk
two.
driving that killed someone.
Yep.
Um,
And two if you're a dog lover. Go ahead.
yeah, he was driving 156 miles an hour, and he slammed into the back of a car, and the car that he slammed into, the other person died. And another person got injured. His passenger got injured. He got injured. PSA here, folks. Don't drink and drive. Please don't. This is, obviously you might not end up going 156 miles an hour and doing this, but just nothing good comes of it. Just don't do it. You drink, you leave your car wherever you are. Just leave it there. Throw your keys in a box or something. Like, just don't do it, folks. Don't do it. Chris, I believe you have a little news too.
Real quick on your subject matter, personally speaking, as you know, I haven't had experience with anything along the lines of what Mr. Henry Ruggs has, but I've had experience with getting in trouble for pushing that envelope. And I can personally say that it took a couple times to scare me straight. And you can let Josh attest to the fact that I don't ever do that anymore. I just don't.
Sure.
And folks, fans of the show know I like to imbibe, but I do it in the comfort of my own home, and I don't risk it.
So Chris's news is that he's an alcoholic. Okay, so
right.
Let's get on with the show, Chris.
Welcome to my humble home, folks. No, you were throwing it to me for matchups, sir. I'm sorry if I missed.
I was throwing it to you for your news, but if you want to start with that before, or if you want to do your matchup, sure, whatever. I don't care.
Well, all my news is baked into my matchups, right?
Sure.
We'll get to it pretty quickly. Let's put it that way. We have a little bit here with the Falcons at Saints. I'm going to approach this matchup with a couple of injury updates / news, as Josh put it. Then cut to the chase. Calvin Ridley is out indefinitely for personal reasons, mental reasons, and Michael Thomas will miss the remainder of the season with his ongoing ankle issue, which he had to have surgery on again back. I don't know. It feels like several weeks ago.
You mean back in June?
June was it? Was the second surgery?
No, he had. Didn't he have
No,
surgery
I'm
back
sorry.
in June?
He elected to not have surgery, and then it came up. Was it June?
In June.
I feel like it was later, but I'm going to go with what you said because I
Maybe
don't
July.
have that written down here.
It started with a J, and it wasn't January.
Right.
It also wasn't. It also wasn't July.
July.
I just made that up.
October. That was fun to say. I'm going to continue here. Let's make this short. I want people to know there's help out there, and we want you back out there just as much as we want Ridley back on the field. But I digress. We've already touched on that. Let's get into fantasy analysis here. The only fantasy assets I'm concerned about is Cordero, Swiss Army Knife, Patterson, and Kyle Josh was wrong, Pitts. The Saints are an elite level defense, but Pitts is having a historic season at tight end despite actually being the Falcons' #1 wide receiver. And Patterson will see even more work in all facets with no Ridley. 4.5 stars for Pitts and a flex-worthy 2.5 stars for Patterson. That's the Falcons. On to the Saints. I'm going to keep this side of the matchup short too. To me, Kamara is the only fantasy asset worth discussing. He gets Falcons defense giving up 167.5 rushing yards per game over the last 2 weeks since returning from bye. And that was versus the Dolphins and the Falcons. Not exactly a rushing powerhouses there. The Falcons also give up the 6th most fantasy points to running backs. The only reason I am not giving Kamara a 5-star rating is I want to see them with Simeon at quarterback and potentially Taysom Hill back in his gadget role. So I'm going to give him 4.5 stars, which I didn't write down for some odd reason. And that is your Falcons at Saints, sir.
I'm just glaring at you for saying I was wrong.
I know. I like how I just rolled right to the matchup because honestly, and you know
Jameis
this as
Winston,
well.
obviously, he's hurt.
Oh, good point.
And
I didn't mention that.
I find it interesting that, like, I know Taysom Hill was
It seems
inactive
like
last
2
week,
weeks
right?
ago. Has been for I feel like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And again, forgive me for not updating Jameis there.
He has some sort of injury. It doesn't really matter. He's Taysom Hill. It's very odd that I like you posted that in our Discord, and I'm like, man, it's kind of a bummer for Winston, who, like, maybe not fantasy wise, but was having a pretty decent real life.
It's not like the Saints don't
quarterback season
or didn't have a chance at the playoffs. I don't know if they still do. I'm just
but
saying,
I mean, with Jameis, like, it wasn't like this season for the Saints at quarterback wasn't Jameis Winston was the problem. It was their wide receivers was the problem.
agreed.
They didn't have good wide receivers.
And then the Michael Thomas news on to just put that cherry on the Sunday of bad stuff. Yeah, there you go. No, dude, yeah. I was rooting for Jameis too. I absolutely was. And I know this is stupid narrative, but like the LASIK surgery, I was kind of like, you never know. I thought he was a talented guy when his career started, and even
came with some character flaws, but yeah.
For sure. But I feel like that's kind of water on the bridge at this point in his career.
Is that because he stole lobster that you say it's water on the bridge?
I'm just gonna wave you forward. Josh.
Another water pun. Great. Let's move on to the Vegas Raiders here, and I was gonna kind of start with that, but then I did my Henry Ruggs thing. Seriously, like, back to what Chris was saying with Calvin Ridley, if you and taking some time off for mental health. If you're struggling with some mental health issues, seek some help. I know in my area at least, there is a free mental health clinic that happens every month or every week. I can't remember which. And usually in bigger metropolitan areas, not that the Iowa City, Coralville, North Liberty area is that big, but they do have one of those things. Google it. If you don't have the health insurance or the money, seek out try and find one of those things, and hopefully that there is something like that around you. There are also some online things that you can, I mean, it's usually just to kind of vent frustration and everything, and as a voice to listen to your problems that's completely anonymous. Go and check those things out if you are struggling with some mental health issues. For reals, folks. It's nothing to ignore. Back to the show. Let's start with Derek Carr here. Like I said, it's the Vegas Raiders at the New York Giants this week. Derek Carr, he's averaging a respectable, not great, but respectable 19.52 points per game, which is 15th best. And he's an average quarterback going up against an average defense. I'm just going to give him 2.5 stars here. There's really only a couple of quarterbacks missing this week. Sorry, let's rewind. Teams on bye this week is the Detroit Lions, the Seattle Seahawks, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Washington football team. So there's really only like 2 fantasy relevant quarterbacks missing out of that. One of them was already injured. That would be Russell Wilson. So you're mainly just missing stupid Tom Brady this week. Derek Carr isn't a great replacement. There's others guys out there I like better.
Yeah, like you said, he's 15. I mean, what do you want out of that guy?
Yeah, whatever. Let's move on to Josh Jacobs here. Jacobs is what I am kind of envision what Chris Carson would have been this year had Carson not gotten injured. He'll get you about I say that because he'll get you about 12 to 16 fantasy points per game. He'll give you a dud every once in a while, and then he'll pop off for a big game every once in a while. That's Josh Jacobs. Otherwise, he's steady, not great. What I do like this week is that the Giants are giving up the 7th most points to running backs and the 5th most rushing yards per game to running backs, obviously. Jacobs doesn't do much in the receiving game, so we'll just focus on that 109.8 rushing yards per game that the Giants are giving up on the ground. I like Jacobs this week, but I don't love him, so I'll give him 3.5 stars. Skipping ahead to Darren Waller. He was close to playing in Week 7, according to reports. According to SportingNews.com, cited my source this time. Waller was close to playing in Week 7. As we all know, the Raiders were on bye in Week 8. during that bye week, Darren Waller did stay in Vegas to receive treatment and do some rehab on his heel/ankle injury. If all these reports are true, Waller was closer to playing in week 7. We'll assume that he's going to play in week 9. And I keep on going here. My bad, folks. While Waller's 11.1 points per game is currently 6th amongst tight ends. I didn't use a second round pick on 11.1 points per game.
I was just gonna say, sorry, you said 11.1, right?
Yeah, Chris,
that's a little struggle bus.
Is Waller feeling a little busty to you?
Yeah,
I think he's a little busty.
Maybe. Yep.
I think perhaps he's been dealing with the injury longer than what we suspect. But I feel like I was drafting him for more of like that 14.1 points per game that he was getting last year.
How about top 3 tight end?
Yeah, Giants have been middle of the road against tight ends, like just about everyone. It's just whatever. I'm gonna give Waller 4 stars if healthy, though. Let's move on to the Giants side here, though. Daniel Jones, I initially gave Derek Carr 2 stars in this matchup, but then I looked at Daniel Jones and bumped Derek Carr up, so now I'm giving Daniel Jones 2 stars. And if you don't remember, Derek Carr got 2.5. He's got some upside with his rushing ability, but not really. He hasn't topped 30 yards in 6 weeks. So
I was going to say he's
to Daniel Jones.
He's the dreaded game manager. That's what he is.
Yeah, pretty much. Saquon Barkley. Here's the report that I pulled from CBSSports.com last night. Saquon Barkley is aiming to return this week. Blah blah blah, and this is all kind of null and void in the sense that he popped up with COVID today. So yeah, it sounds like we're going back to Devontae Booker here. In case we think that,
folks, like Josh updated me, I hadn't even read it. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah. Pretty current.
In case it's Devontae Booker, which it sounds like it's going to be, the Raiders are giving up the 7th most points to running backs, and Booker has actually been a solid 15-ish points per game producer in Saquon's absence. So I'm going to give Booker 3.5 stars here. I kind of like him. Not a lot, but I kind of like him here. And
he's been a little inefficient on the ground, but he's getting plenty of targets, and he's scoring on the ground.
He's doing okay.
He's scoring in the red zone.
He's okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Let's move on to Evan Ingram here. Like 99.9% of every NFL player, Ingram stays with his current team through the trade deadline.
Uneventful, yeah.
Yeah. Ingram caught a touchdown last week, so that instantly made him a top 10 tight end. It's just sad that one touchdown makes you a top 10 tight end. The Raiders D is giving up the 5th most points to tight ends and allowing a coin flips chance at a touchdown. I'll stick with Ingram for one more week. I will, and I'll give him 3.5 stars, just kind of above that tight end dart throw. The rest of the Giants wide receivers, I'm kind of keeping them all away from my starting lineups. The Raiders cornerbacks are actually good this year, as opposed to like the last, I don't know, at least 5 where they've been terrible. And I'm also staying away from the Giants due to a lack of health. That's Sterling Shepard, Kenny Galladay, usage, fantasy relevancy. Yeah.
Is Shepard out?
Staying away.
Is Shepard out?
He's doubtful. Doubtful.
Okay, so
the last time I saw.
That's ironic. They still have the doubtful, but they don't have the probable. Although, I guess you got to go one way or the other. Of all things, right?
Get rid of the doubtful.
You think so?
Yeah. Bring the probable back. Get rid of the doubtful.
Oh, again, I guess you got to take one or the other.
Yeah.
Was that your matchup, sir?
Yes, it was.
All right, on to my second matchup of the evening. I've got the Browns at Bengals. I'm going to shill a little bit for the Bengals, but I'm going to keep the Browns short. I'm just going to warn you right there, folks. The battle of the Ohio teams with ugly uniforms. That was for ZC right there.
Real quick, should we just move to Ohio and become football fans? Because kind of like the Browns, kind of like the Bengals.
How different is Ohio from Iowa, really? And I'm not in Iowa, to be clear. I'm in Illinois. But
it's the beginning of the Rust Belt.
Yeah, okay.
Versus the Grain Belt.
Right. Oh,
so a little bit slightly more mountainous on the east side of it.
I don't do belts, Josh. I'm skinny. So what do you want from me?
I hate you.
I knew I was going to get an A+ eye roll out of that one. So on to the Browns. This will be quick. Speaking of, dude, this is just like the big. In fact, this is probably going to be the title of the show. Let's be honest. This is the big wide receiver news show. Odell Beckham Jr. is being a diva, but doesn't have to play. Doesn't have the play to back it up, so he was sent home. The only relevant fantasy assets to talk about for the Browns are the two running backs, and Hunt is still on the IR. Well, I mean, I guess Dearness Johnson is a fine desperation flex, particularly in a PPR, since the Browns might have to throw to catch up. He played the passing role last week with Chubb returning. Speaking of Chubb,
had a couple good runs too.
He did. He scored on the ground, to be clear. He's got a, I'm sorry, speaking of Chubb, he's got a decent matchup with the Bengals, giving up the 14th most points to running backs, but having just gave up that huge day to Michael Carter of the Jets. Now, obviously, Carter did a ton of that through the air, but he also ran 15 times for 77 yards and scored on the ground once, I believe. So I'm going to give 4 stars for Chubb. And just kind of a desperate 2 stars for Johnson. Like I said, PPR, maybe give a glance there. That's it for the Browns, man. I'm just not giving any love to the pass catchers. We're done there, or the quarterback for that matter. On to the Bengals.
Baker, get healthy or like take some time off or something, man. Like,
there is a little bit of school thought here to mention real quick before I move on to the Bengals. That hey, let's see Baker without OBJ as his, I guess, number one. Like I don't think the guy was getting open. I don't think the guy was getting open. I'm sorry, say that again, Josh.
Remember, Rashad Higgins was getting flash in the pan. Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's currently injured, but he was okay for times last year, and he even had a good game earlier this year before getting injured.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I made it my point in my notes to be a little unbiased because I tend to pile on OBJ, but I just don't think he's getting open. Flat out. Now, I don't watch every route. Let's not get it twisted, folks. But I just think he's not long for this league or this team. At least we can all understand that.
Yeah, I don't think he plays.
I mean, his dad.
I don't think he plays another season. For goodness sakes, with the Browns.
His dad was tweeting videos of Baker not throwing to an open OBJ. It's like a Lamar. What's the guy in the NBA? Whatever. Let's move on to the Bengals.
Odom?
No, that's like 10
Jackson?
years ago. No, the guy with like 2 or 3
Burton?
sons in the NBA. Yes. Is it not Burton? No, not Burton.
LeVar Burton?
Is it not Burton? What is his kid's name? I don't know NBA as well as I used to, sir. Let's move on to the
Ball?
Bengals. Yes, Ball. That's it.
We got it.
Mellow Ball, LeVar Ball, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, sir. It's Ball. On to the Bengals. Joe Burrow. The Browns aren't as great versus the pass as they are versus the rush. So they're giving up the 8th most points to quarterbacks fantasy-wise and tied for 3rd worst with 17 passing touchdowns given up. And if that's not convincing enough, every time they've faced an elite-level quarterback, the QB has delivered big time. Mahomes week 1, Herbert week 5, and Kyler week 6. Otherwise, all the other quarterbacks they've faced are pretty underwhelming, dude. And lastly, he threw 3 touchdowns in each of his 2 matchups versus Cleveland last year. I'm giving Joe Burrow 5 stars this week. On to Mixon. The Browns are great versus rush, but Mixon is the feature back of an elite level offense, so he's in your lineup regardless. In terms of expectations, though, I see him in the top 15, just outside the RB1 area. 3.75 stars for Joe Mixon. On to Jamar Chase. Short and simple here. The Browns like to give up passing touchdowns, and Chase is 4th with 7 receiving touchdowns. And I gave Burrow 5 stars, so 4.25 stars for Chase. On to Tiggins. Tiggins has actually out-targeted Chase by 4 targets in the games they've both been active together, which is basically just meaning Tiggins has been active because I believe Chase has been active all year. I like a high scoring affair in this one, despite Vegas only giving, I think it was like 47.5. I see a little bit more than that. And I think Tiggins is due. Yeah, I mean, I understand the.
Chris, we haven't made an ice cream bet in a while. Yeah,
I don't mean to. I feel like every single time I bring up any player versus the Cleveland defense, you're like, ice cream bet.
No. I'm not saying individual player. What is the over under here?
40s. I did not put it in my notes, to be fair. I did have it on a tab earlier. I don't have it in front of me. I think it was 47.5.
Okay, and you say they're going to score more?
Yes.
You want the over?
Yes.
I'll take the under.
All right, done.
Boom. Sorry.
Speaking of the over under and me expecting a bit more of a high scoring affair, I think Tiggins is due for a touchdown. He caught one each of his first 2 weeks this season. Of course, he was injured, but has not scored since. Of course, I'm sorry. So I'm going to give him 3.75 stars. On to CJ Uzama is how you pronounce it from his mouth. Literally. Really the same story here as with any touchdown dependent tight end. It's just that Uzama has caught 2 touchdowns in 2 different games this year, so it's inflated, folks. He's a fine dart throw, though. He's a fine dart throw, though. Don't get me wrong. 2.5 stars for CJ Uzama. So that's my my matchup, sir. On to you.
All right, let's keep on rolling. I got the Buffalo Bills at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Gonna do a little song and dance. Josh Allen 5 stars. I am not gonna go into this one at all. Bills good, Jags bad. Enough said. Let's move on to Zack Moss / Devin Singletary. I'm going to preface this with the fact that the Dolphins and Jags are giving up almost identical points per game to opposing backs this year. Having said that, though, no 2 defenses are alike. So here's what Moss Singletary did against Miami last week. 15 carries, 47 yards, 7 receptions, 40 yards. That is combined with the 2 of them. The Dolphins' D is also giving up the 9th most points to running backs. The Jags, the 11th most points to running backs. I'm sorry, but
Are they good? Are they good? Are you telling me they're good defenses against the rush, Josh? Both of them.
No. I'm saying that they're both bad defenses against the rush.
Oh, okay. Continue.
And yet, last week, these 2 backs failed to really do much of anything.
Yeah,
I'm staying away from both of them. This is it. I'm done. I'm staying away from both of these guys, and I'm only using Zack Moss in emergency situations. It just sounds like last year all over again. I'm giving them both 1 star.
Oh, okay. Let's move on.
Well, okay. So when you take 47,
no, I don't hate it.
I don't hate it.
I chuckle because I'm frustrated too.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, do we really need to do the math here?
I LOL.
I gave him 4 stars, and I didn't give an explanation. So in your face, folks. Emmanuel Sanders.
Yeah, you're gonna start him. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in Sanders, to be honest with you.
If you started Sanders last week, you know what happened. He goosed you. He goosed you. Other than 2 good games, Sanders really hasn't been that great. It's a good matchup. I'd really rather look elsewhere. So I'm going to give him 2.5 stars. On to Cole Beasley. 2.5 stars for him. Gun to my head, Beasley versus Emmanuel Sanders. I'm going to go Beasley, recency bias and go Beasley. He's been more productive than Manny Sanders has been the last couple of weeks.
And it's not like before that Beasley was bad. I mean,
he didn't have that great of games.
Sanders also scored, I feel like, and Beasley didn't during that stretch. A couple times.
Okay, maybe I just looked this up. Sorry, I just while you were flapping your gums, I was looking up Dawson Knox. Thank you. Sounds like he's not gonna. Play this week. He's still recovering from a hand injury. And I literally wrote, let's check whilst recording, and I did. Thank you, notes. Jacksonville Jaguars. Chris, I think I'm staying away from everyone here. James Robinson. Let's do a quick check here. Yeah, dude. The Bills' defense is good.
I know. You can't even get him in the top 36 with desperate fantasy managers out there.
No. Carlos Hyde, no thanks. Trevor Lawrence. Yeah.
I mean, the rest of it I have no problem with, sir.
Trevor Lawrence, you seem to take a step back following their bye week last week. And, I mean, Marvin Jones, no. Laviska Shenault, no. No, I'm not doing it, man. I'm not. I'm staying away from all of them.
Again, the only player I needed to push you on was a little bit there was Robinson. Hey, I get it. They are very,
it sounds like he's not going to play.
Bills are very, very good. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Did
he's
I?
got injured last week.
Oh,
That's why it's like Carlos Hyde. No,
I'm sorry. My apologies. Continue.
keep going. Next matchup.
Thank you. Onward and upward, folks. I've got the Texans at Dolphins. Tyrod is back and is QB1 this week. I really hope the best for this guy, be it with with the
I don't,
Texans
but
or
okay.
elsewhere. I hope he gets and holds on to a starting gig. But I'm benching Tyrod. But he's worth
Have you ever seen him
adding
play?
super. Well, I mean, he got off to an okay start this season before he got hurt in
Eh,
like the first week, and uh, we're talking about the Texans who have literally no other fantasy assets besides like Cooks. So we're reaching here, and it is like Superflex
I'm laughing because it's
conversation,
so sad.
deeper dynasty
It's
leagues. Hey,
so
man,
sad.
I'm in a dynasty league where I have Mahomes as my starter and Drew Lock as my backup, and I'm getting Tyrod Taylor back, so I'm happy. On to other more interesting topics. Brandon Cooks, after a real rough stretch of 4 weeks where he was averaging 4.5 fantasy points per game, Cooks saves his fantasy day with a 45-yard bomb from Davis Mills. Cooks has been and remains a volume play, so he is still in your lineup, most likely, I guess. But he might even be given a boost this week with getting Tyrod back. So I'm going to give him a bit of an aggressive 3.5 stars. On to the other side of the matchup, the Dolphins. Tua is still the Dolphins QB after all the scuttlebutt about Watson being traded to the Fins. I heard he could care less about all the rumors, and that's a good vote of confidence for Tua from a football perspective and a like how well you handle competition perspective. And he's flashed a little recently since returning from injury. He was 9 yards away from having back-to-back 300-yard games while averaging 3 passing touchdowns per game in those 2 weeks following his comeback. But disappointed versus a good Buffalo defense last week that we just discussed, just like he did versus the Bills in week 2. Again, different world with the Buffalo defense there, folks. Point is, Buffalo is really good. That was redundant.
Buff,
But
buff.
this is the Texans, and you play your streaming options against the Texans. They are giving up the most passing yards and the 6th most fantasy points to quarterbacks. 4 stars for Tua. On to the running backs of the Dolphins. This isn't going to be very fun. I'm very underwhelmed by the Dolphins' backfield. Gaskin, after having 3 straight games with single-digit carries, weeks 4 through 6, gets double-digit carries 2 weeks in a row, weeks 7 and 8. If it wasn't for 3 receiving touchdowns and that week 5 where he inexplicably exploded for 10 targets, and 2 of those aforementioned receiving touchdowns, he would most likely be single-digit fantasy points every single week of this season. And last week, Malcolm Brown was out and will be for at least 2 more weeks with a quad injury. Both Gaskin and Ahmed have seen increased workloads and done absolutely nothing with the extra work. If it weren't for the matchup and 4 teams on bye, I would bench both of the running back. But the Texans have given up the most rushing yards on the season and the 6th most fantasy points to running backs. 2.5 stars for Gaskin, and I'm going to bench Ahmed, obviously. On to the pass catchers. Jalen Waddle has seen great target numbers in Devontae Parker's absence and actually saw it continue last week despite Parker coming back, playing well, and seeing 11 targets of his own, meaning they both got 11 targets. Still, though, Waddle has only been fantasy relevant when he scores. Parker has been equally unreliable when healthy. Part of the issue is as well the offense in general isn't great, but also Gesicki being a big part of their offensive attack. But Gesicki plays tight end, and he's in your lineup every single week because of that. Also due to his target share and his red zone looks. 4 stars for Gesicki. I'd look elsewhere at wide receiver if you can help it. If you need to take a stab at one of these dudes, I'd go with Waddle for upside. 2 stars for Waddle. I'm benching Parker. Quick mention about Will Fuller. He remains day-to-day with his finger injury, but he is expected to return at some point this season.
All right, so let's move along to the New England Patriots at the Carolina Panthers. While I bring up my notes here, Mac Jones, I'm not really sure why I'm mentioning him other than I'm giving him 1 star. like we were talking about with, I don't remember who it was anymore, but Mac Jones, he hasn't been an awful NFL quarterback in his rookie year. He really hasn't.
Well, didn't they
He's
just have
just
like a 52-point game a week or so ago?
something like that, but like he hasn't really been a
I know
usable
it was
fantasy asset
for
for the
sure.
better part of for pretty much his entire rookie season.
Hmm.
Um, I just like if it was a softer defense, maybe, and like it was like a big bye week with a lot of fantasy relevant quarterbacks on bye, maybe I could get into Mac Jones and some better weapons. But
Yeah.
this is probably not the best day to be starting someone with the name McCorkle. Just saying. Um, like I said, 1 star. McCorkle, really? Damian
Is that a
Harris.
receiver of theirs?
No, his name is something McCorkle Jones.
Oh.
Mac
Consider me enlightened,
Jones.
sir. Continue with your matchup.
You're the one that told me about this.
Am I right?
Um, Damian Harris. Harris has been ripping, dude. He's got at least 80 yards in the on the ground. Of course, it's Damian Harris we're talking about in the past 3 games, and at least 1 touchdown in each of those 3 games. Here's the problem: the Panthers are giving up just 87.4 rushing yards per game and about a third of a touchdown per game. So
Ooh.
maybe a
Third of a
little.
touchdown?
Yeah, per game. So like, there's about a 33% chance he scores a touchdown, more or less. I like Harris to continue his hot streak here. I call it a gut
I mean,
feeling.
didn't Zeke tear him up though? I know
Probably.
Zeke isn't
Zeke's better
Damian.
than Damian Harris, though, man.
I know,
Let's
I know.
be
I'm just
He's
throwing it out
on a
there.
better team in a better situation, more talented. I'm giving
Yeah.
Damian Harris 3.75 stars. Like I said, gut feeling. I like him to continue ripping.
No, I think that's aggressive enough. Yeah.
Hunter Henry, he's got a touchdown in half of his games this season, so that's 4 out of 8. That's good for a 2021 tight end. It really is. The
You
problem
want to flip
is
a coin?
yeah, the problem with that is that Mac Jones is just not racking up enough yardage, and it's not that Mac Jones was a strong armed quarterback coming into the league, but it just appears that Mac Jones is dinking and dunking to an extreme, and well, look at that. He's got a 7.9 attended air yards per passing attempt. That's not that great. So I'm going to give Hunter Henry 3.5 stars and a kind of more of a tight end or a touchdown dependent tight end. Although he does get a lot of other targets and everything. Sam Darnold, he's been playing horribly. And the Patriots are giving the 6th fewest points to quarterbacks. So niet. Now I say niet.
Yet.
Niet. We are the podcasters that say niet to Sam Darnold. I wrote them some stuff down about Chuba Hubbard, but it sounds like CMC may be coming back this week. I gave Chuba Hubbard 3 stars. If it's CMC, I'm going to give him 4. It's not the greatest matchup.
Is CMC in? Is that? Do you think it's that definitive?
No, if CMC does play, I'll give him 4 stars. If it's not CMC, let's just go through this real quick. Hubbard had a pretty good game last week. It was against the Falcons. He got a touchdown. Yada yada. The problem with Chuba is that he is getting about 2/3 of the snaps, and the Patriots are giving up 17.9 points per game to running backs as a whole. So 2/3 of the 17.9 makes him not that exciting. So 3 stars, Chuba Hubbard. DJ Moore. I'm not really sure that if you drafted DJ Moore, you might have to roll him out. You might have to, but I don't think you can do it with any confidence. It's not that the Patriots are really that great at corner anymore. Like they're not elite level like they were with Stephon Gilmore, even.
But I feel like they can
the year
take
before.
a lot of receivers out of the game.
Exactly, and that's why I'm giving DJ Moore 3.25 stars, and hopefully it's more like a 1 star because you're playing against me with DJ Moore in our dynasty matchup.
I actually, speaking of the devil, we don't usually do this in mid-season, but like a quick dynasty look. Like, are you thinking your only hope there is Darnold's gone as a DJ Moore dynasty manager? Yeah, I don't blame you.
Because didn't they just give DJ Moore a contract, and so they're probably not keeping...
But he looked so good in the first few weeks, of course, so did Darnold.
Because Sam Darnold looked so good in the first couple weeks.
I was going to say, yeah, we've seen that coin completely flip, but God darn it, it's frustrating. I think there's still a ton of talent there with DJ Moore, but as a dynasty manager, I'm biased right now.
No, he's got talent. I'm sorry, I'm looking up DJ Moore's contract.
No, yeah, we're on the same page there. Yeah, we are. We are.
He's either in a very. He's got to be. He must have signed a short extension because next year or in 2023 is an unrestricted free agent.
You must be
Anyways,
mistaken. That's like his rookie contract.
Yeah, it must.
That's like his 4th year. Yeah, because he was the 2nd-round pick. That's his 4th year.
Next year is his 5th.
I know for.
Does he have first round pick?
I swear he was a 2nd-round pick. Maybe I'm wrong. It happens all the time.
Okay, no. Here it says.
You don't
DJ
sign
Moore signed a 4-year, $11.1 contract with the Carolina Bengals. And
Carolina Bengals.
Well, no.
I know.
Okay, I can't read. Okay, Chris, it's been a long week already.
I don't like reading about while I'm recording either, but that was hilarious. We can edit all this out if we want.
No, I'm not going to. Yep. Okay, that's it. This is his rookie contract. He does not have an extension, so they might. Man.
I like the coach. I like the receiver. I think
I like the coach.
Injection
they don't
of
have
a young
other than
QB.
other than CMC, they have no real offensive weapons.
Hey man, you can't rely.
DJ Moore. It's DJ Moore and CMC.
Apparently, Josh, you can't build your offense around CMC because you can't rely on him to be there. I said it.
Also, when your offensive line is super terrible, your quarterback's not going to.
Running back can only be so good.
And your running back is not going to stay very upright.
Well, I thought Cam Irvin played okay, but yeah, I digress. All right, on to my next matchup, folks. I'm going to get this one out of the way because I'm a Cowboys fan and because...
Oh my God, that's when I should have went to the bathroom when you were going to go on for 20 minutes about the Cowboys.
I could switch to the solo scene on the
just go.
Graphics. If you want me to. No, this is actually, I'm going to get this out of the way because time crunch. I'm a little unprepared, but I'm going to do the best I can for you folks because I know fantasy and I know Dallas. Let's start with the Broncos and get some stuff out of the way here. I would like to look elsewhere as far as Teddy goes. Sure, the Cowboys defense isn't a world beater, but they sure have been aggressive lately, and they actually showed something last week. I'll leave it at that. I'd like to bench Teddy if you can help it. In a super flex and you're desperate, sure, throw him in your top, 27, I guess. Give him a 1.5 stars there. On to the running backs, what we really care about here. It's the same story every week. We've passed the NFL trade deadline. Here we are. I was excited about Williams' receiving chops that he's flexed in the past couple of weeks. So let's just hold on to that and maybe give him the slight watermark over Gordon. But hey, Gordon scored twice, I believe, last week.
Gordon ripped it last week.
The problem with Dallas's defense isn't so much that they're great against the run. It's just you got to throw to catch up. I think we're going to see Dak back. We'll talk a little bit. We'll talk a little bit more about this later. But Denver's defense is really freaking good. So maybe there's not so much catching up there. So I think at least one of the backs can probably eat here at Denver. I'm going to lean Williams with a little bit of bias here in terms of a catch-up script, despite what I just said about Denver's defense being pretty stout versus Dallas. Give Williams a 2.5 stars. Just get him in your flex if you got to have one. But I would rather bench Gordon. I just don't think there's going to be a rushing game script for the Broncos here versus Dallas. I think they're going to need to throw. So let's get Sutton in your lineup with 3.5 stars. He's been playing well lately. He's a big target. Obviously he's going to draw coverage from Trayvon Diggs. He's an opportunistic cornerback, but that doesn't mean that a bigger receiver can't beat him deep.
Aggressive ball hawk.
Exactly. An aggressive ball hawk, well said. And maybe get you some decent fantasy production in that top 36 category there in terms of a flex. On to the, I guess you could say, ancillary pass catching prospects here. I haven't heard much about Judy being activated lately, so I'm going to gloss over that completely.
He played last week.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did he?
Yeah.
We can edit that out.
I'm not going to.
You're not going to. Okay, fine. I have nothing else on Judy, so I'm going to move on to Patrick. I just don't feel, pick your poison in terms of those two receivers. In terms of, again, the Broncos having to pass to catch up to Dallas's offense. I'd give the nod to the bigger receiver in Patrick. I'll give him a desperate 2 stars and bench Judy. On to Noah Fant, the tight end. I feel like, the Dallas linebackers are great, but you don't necessarily know where Parsons will be in terms of whether he's rushing the passer or dropping in coverage. Fant has been a little underwhelming lately, but I think in a lot of leagues with standard, 10, 12, etc., PPR, half-point PPR, you probably have Fant in your lineup. Let's give him 3 stars. On to the Cowboys. No Von Miller and a healthy Dak means probably a potent passing offense, but again, Denver has been very stout. I know Denver is very stout against the run, but Zeke is going to be in your lineup no matter what I tell you this week. So let's give him the volume play of 3.5 stars. I'm going to go and bench Pollard because he's been underwhelming. He's been more of a handcuff than he has been a playable piece lately.
Yeah, you don't start Pollard.
Don't start Pollard
anytime soon.
I think I might have actually dropped him in a league out of picking up another kind of bottom of the roster running back dart throw there. Let's
Do you
move
know
on.
who it was?
Actually, I don't remember at all.
I'm trying to remember. You spent up big for him. It was Darrington Evans.
I didn't pick up Darrington Evans. I thought he was hurt. Nice guess,
Pretty sure you spent some big fat bucks on him.
No, that wasn't me. Anyway, I did gloss over Dak's rating. I'm sorry. My apologies. Again, no Von Miller. Dak is back. I know this is a good defense. I know there's some bias here, but I'm going to give him a very startable 4 stars. Just top 12. Just bottom 12, anywhere from 10 to 12. Quarterback of the week. Because you start Dak when he's healthy.
My bad. It was Jeremy McNichols. Same team, wrong player.
How much did I spend?
17. I misremembered all the way. Dude, okay. I'm my bad, okay. All right? My bad.
Okay. It's okay. It's your edit.
Okay.
It's your edit.
All right.
Exactly. I'm sorry. Give me a minute. Oh.
I remember where you were.
It's just about to start. You. Oh. I need to.
You realize I'm not editing any of this, right?
Oh, I did. Hey, on to the Dallas pass catchers. Amari, CD, and Schultz is really what we wanted. But hey, you know what? That was actually out of context. Wilson actually deserves an honorable mention because he performed very well last week. Then again, it was the backup quarterback, Cooper Rush, and they were literally came up in the organization together from the practice squad to the team, to the active roster. So, hey, man.
Oh, we're going down this narrative hole.
No, I'm just riffing. Okay. Just more props to them. But in fantasy terms, we're only going to talk about Amari, CD, and Schultz here. Both receivers performed well last week with, again, a backup quarterback, but we're versus a good defense this week, both on the ground and through the air. I'm definitely going to give the nod to Amari because he seems to be the one that they will most likely drop plays for in a possession terms. Yes, they will take their shots with CD. Don't get me wrong. And yes, CD has his occasional drag route and across the middle, but usually Amari's going to get Amari's going to get the third down plays. He's going to get the security blanket plays from Dak. I'm going to give Amari the nod here with a startable 3 stars. I'm definitely not going to bench CD because he can score at any moment. So 2.5 stars to CD there. Again, this is because of the vaunted Denver defense. On to the tight end Schultz. Jarwin, I think, is banged up. I have no notes on that here, but regardless of that, Schultz has been taking all the vast majority of the snaps, and he's performed very, very well. In fact, you visit me last year in terms of a Schultz dynasty manager and a wanting to pursue Jarwin. Schultz really surprised me, man. He has really performed well in fantasy terms and real terms.
Money well spent on that Blake Jarwin when Dalton Schultz.
No,
I
never did trade for him. I never did trade for him. I held my load, if you will. That was rude.
Excuse me?
Yeah, right. So the tight end landscape is thin. You have to put Schultz in that anywhere from the 10 to 15 range. I know that's a broad stroke, but I'm going to give Schultz a semi-startable 2.5 stars. And that's the Broncos at Cowboys, sir.
Okay. Blake Jarwin did not practice today, in case you're wondering. But
kind of
no other real news. Okay. Let's go to the Minnesota. I almost said the Minnesota Baltimore. It's the Minnesota. The Minnesota Vikings,
Baltimore Dolphins,
the Baltimore Ravens. They're all purple, and it's really confusing me. My notes are all purple.
What? The Dolphins are not purple.
Color code them to the teams, and it's just.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, let's start with Dalvin Cook here. I gotta say, Dalvin Cook has played in 5 games this season. Week 7 was a bye, so he's just 5 games. But he's averaging only 13.5 points per game. That's 18th best when it comes to points per game. I don't really like using a top 3 pick on the 18th best running back. Cook
top 3 overall,
busty,
folks. Don't
Chris,
get it twisted.
A bit busty.
I feel like it's late. I don't remember if I have him 1 or 2 leagues, but it's been disappointing, man. I thought I drafted well at running back.
You know why? Because Kirk Cousins is throwing the ball, man, and he's doing it well.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. It's the anti-Vikings.
Was he? What did he do?
Yeah, he wasn't very good last week. Anyways, I like Cook to have a bounce back week, though. The Ravens might only be allowing 75 rushing yards per game, but they're allowing They're allowing at least a touchdown per game to running backs. Sign me up. Yeah. Dalvin Cook, 4 stars. Yes.
Good call. I'm all over it. I mean, he's in my
unless you have him in Dynasty, and then he gets 1 star. Justin Jefferson, 3.5 stars. He's averaging just 13.5 points per game to Adam Thielen's 15 points per game. I gotta say, it's pretty impressive what the Ravens D has done, considering that they're arguably their best corner, Marcus Peters, went down with a season-ending injury. There was another Ravens defensive player that I can't remember.
I feel like their front pass rushers have lost a guy or 2.
Yeah, there's another key defensive player that they're missing. But the Ravens are allowing just 21.9 points per game to opposing wide receiving cores as a whole. So it's not the greatest matchup for Thielen and Jefferson, but Jefferson's probably going to get Marlon Humphreys, or at least a heavy dose of it. And Adam Thielen's going to get the scrubs, the leftover scrubs. So I'm going to give Thielen the edge here with 3.75 stars. And remember, I gave Justin Jefferson 3.5. So it's not like I hate him. Kirk Cousins
slightly leaning on that fence riding line there.
I'm giving it. I'm not riding a fence. I'm giving the edge
to
not
riding the fence. Cheers.
Kirk Cousins, this is finally the week I'm out on Cousins. He's had some great games, and this could easily be one of those, but I'm not banking on it. The Ravens are giving up over 300 yards per game through the air, but only 1.71 touchdowns per game.
Dallas may look a little silly, so...
Yeah, well, just let me backtrack here a second. While I say I'm out on him, I think I mean I'm more out of love with Kirk Cousins. And by saying that, it really sounds like I'm out of Cousins' love, and that really makes it sound like some real deliberate stuff.
That makes me feel uncomfortable,
right there.
Joshua.
Yeah, I know. I didn't. It wasn't.
You got a rating for him though?
Damn it, Chris. I'm just gonna give him 3.5 stars, and let's move along. Lamar Jackson, 5 stars. He's good. He's got the running ability. He's going up against the Vikings D. While it is better this season, still ain't the bee's knees. Chris, where are we at on the running back? The Ravens flavor of the week at running back? Are we at? Are we at Frank Gore yet? Are we there?
I'm still jaded over Tyson Williams, right? Wasn't that his last name? Yep, still jaded over that. So I have no good answer for you. I think it's a joke. I think.
Are we at LaShawn McCoy? I think it's LaShawn McCoy.
Oh my God! You're making
wait! I got it. It's their quarterback. Their quarterback is their running back. Stupid us.
But he's been good lately through the air too.
Yeah, I know, but he's also their running back as well.
Yeah, exactly. Hurting the running back,
Um,
the actual running backs. Yes, yes.
let's
Good
move
point.
along to Marquis Brown. Chris, do you remember the week? Maybe you don't, but do you remember when I was like, "Is Sammy
High on
Watkins the
him.
Ravens' number one receiver?" I'm an idiot, dude. You know who the Ravens' number one receiver is? It's Hollywood Brown. He's the wide receiver 9, despite having just had their bye week.
Is he
So I'm going to give
really?
4.5 stars to
He's a wide
Marquise
receiver
Brown.
9 on the season. Are you serious?
Yeah, for reals, dude.
I know
He is a
that's a simple
little,
stat, and we're not all about that, but that impresses me. I did not
yeah.
know that. Not gonna lie.
He is a little tight end or tight end. He is a little
Sure.
touchdown
Yeah, I
dependent.
mean, we understand his DNA. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
But I don't see him not scoring a touchdown this week. The Vikings, like I said,
Mm-hmm.
the Vikings defense has improved, but it ain't great. 4.5 stars for Marquise Brown. Probably,
Ooh,
I would love you to make him the thumbnail this week. But you can
duly
use whoever
noted.
you want. Mark Andrews, I'm gonna give him 3.75 stars. He's the tight end 2 so far this year, but that's on some really high shoulders of the Week 5 game against my stupid Colts, where he scored 36.2 points. Other than that, he's been kind of in the mix with all those other tight ends in the vast ocean of tight end dart throws. He just
Yeah.
has a more
More on that
brand name.
later. More on
He
the
has more of
throat
a
throws
brand name
later.
than your Donald Parhams and your Tyler
That's fair.
Crofts
That's fair.
and your Cameron Brates and your Jack Doyles. You know, like
Yeah. Oh. Ooh.
that's the end of that matchup.
On to the Packers at Chiefs. I mean, let's just hold on to your butts, folks. Rodgers/Love is how the note reads. As you may have heard, Aaron Rodgers tested positive for COVID. He is unvaccinated, despite lying to reporters. Okay, well, let's call it being disingenuous. The reporter asked the guy if he was vaccinated, and Rodgers answered saying he was, quote, immunized. Typical, right? So now the guy that whined all off season and to let him play GM and get a new contract has let his team down and is in fact in danger of missing maybe 2 starts this week for sure, and potentially next week, because as an unvaccinated player, per NFL rules, you have to miss a minimum of 10 days and you have to get a minimum of 2 negative tests. And next week's game is 11 days away as far as the timing of the, positive test. I wish him the best, but it was a dumb decision, just like Kyrie. You can debate the validity of the vaccines, though you'd probably be wrong, but you cannot debate the fact that if Rodgers was vaccinated, he would be much less likely to miss this game plus next week. On to Love. He is making his first start and only played his first snaps earlier this year in that ridiculous blowout loss to the Saints week 1 for the Packers. Obviously Rodgers is on your bench. And obviously you're also benching Love, but he could be an interesting speculative add in Superflex leagues just to keep on your bench, especially if he ends up getting 2 starts, for goodness sakes. Or, in fact, if you're a Rodgers dynasty Superflex manager or something crazy like that. Obviously, you're downgrading every offensive piece of the Packers. In fact, let's just cut straight to the chase here, since I've gone on my Rodgers and vaccination diatribe here. Devontae Adams is off the COVID list and will obviously see the greatest negative impact with Rodgers out. But he's still a high-end flex versus an awful Kansas City defense. I'm going to give him 3.5 stars. Aaron Jones could see a positive impact in the form of more carries and a ground attack. But I did mention the Chiefs, and did I also mention the Chiefs defense is really bad? Because it is. So I'm going to give Aaron Jones 4 stars. I'm going to bench the rest of the Packers' offensive weapons. On to the Chiefs. Mahomes and the Chiefs have flat out struggled on both sides of the ball, no doubt. Mahomes has averaged 10.87 fantasy points the last 2 weeks, and the Chiefs barely beat the New York Giants last Monday night. And I wouldn't call the Packers a, quote, get-right game. They're 10th best in passing yards and middle of the road in fantasy points given up to quarterbacks. But still, as with most teams in the NFL, the Packers will be worse off on offense without their starting quarterback, period. Especially after the week of the backup quarterback, I just want to remind folks that it's important to remember that usually, like 90% of the time, the backup is not more talented. The backup is not more suited to start in whatever situation. I do expect the Chiefs to, attack, put up points. There's going to be an emphasis on the passing game. I mean, it's the Chiefs already, for goodness sakes. They don't really have a running game. Furthermore, with no Jair Alexander, the Chiefs will exploit the other Packers cornerbacks, and Ty Hill is in for a big day. 5 stars for him. I think the Chiefs have something to prove, and they will want to put the onus on Jordan Love to beat them through the air, force him to play catch-up. So I'm going to give 4.5 stars to Mahomes. On to the runners for the Chiefs. Darren Williams is averaging 4.75 targets per game the last 4 weeks. Still managed 64% snap share despite Derek Gore being involved a decent amount. 20% snap share for Derek Gore there. Williams also managed 49 rushing yards on 13 carries. Not awful. Gore is a great speculative add in a dynasty, or if you can burn a roster spot in a redraft, I guess. But it's kind of hard to do this time of year on a guy like Derek Gore. But I'm just putting that out there. Williams is going up against a Packers team giving up the 10th most yards on the season. I assume that means rushing yards. And has surrendered over 100 rushing yards in 3 of their last 4 games. But 95 of those did come from Taylor Heineke, a quarterback, obviously. I think Williams continues his snap share being north of 60% and is a fine flex options with 3.25 stars. On to the tight end Kelsey. He struggled mightily right there with Mahomes, averaging only 3.6 fantasy points the last 2 weeks. The Packers haven't given up a double-digit fantasy day since week 3 to Kittle. But the list of tight ends the Packers have faced since Kittle in week 3 is underwhelming, and this is Kelsey in a matchup I believe the Chiefs are going to throw a lot. And I want to make a statement. The pass game is all they have. I mean, it's all the Chiefs have. So, it's either do or die as far as that goes. I'm calling for a good game for the offense nonetheless. Kelsey will be a part of that if they have a good game. So I'm going to give Kelsey 4 stars. And that is the Packers at Chiefs.
Okie dokie. Let's move along to the LA Chargers at the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's start with Justin Herbert here. Herbie, he's been having some problems as of late. I'm not sure if they're related to the disappearance of Mike Williams or vice versa. Regardless, Herbie has not been a fantasy asset as of late. I'm going to give Herbie a biased 3.75 stars. The Eagles are allowing only 16.5 points per game to the quarterbacks and have given up good to great days to Dak, worst quarterback in the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, and stupid Tom Brady. So 3.75 stars for Herbie. Austin Eckler? So much for that hip injury there, Eckler. Oh, my hip. Oops, I scored 21.4 fantasy points. Ridiculous. What's more ridiculous than that? He gets the Eagles, who are giving up the 4th most points to the running backs. 5 stars for Austin Eckler.
News. That's good.
5 stars. Do you have him in Dynasty?
Hell yeah, I do.
1 star for Austin Eckler.
For context, I got him on a steal. I know, whatever.
Speaking of 1 stars, and this is a real 1 star, it's really 5 stars for Austin Eckler. 1 star for Mike Williams. He hasn't been good. Keenan Allen has risen from the forgotten realm of forgotten things. You get my point. Watch Williams pop off this week because they gave him 1 star. But I'm still going to stick with my guns. Williams, 1 star. Keenan Allen, 3.75 stars. Okay, so Keenan Allen's resurgence or re-rising was anyways, it was just last week, but I got a feeling this is going to happen again. I got a Keenan Allen feeling. He's still getting the lion's share of the targets, but he's just not getting a lot of
on the season. He's statistically speaking, he's still getting the lion's share of targets on the season, as a whole. Understood.
Yeah, especially the last couple of weeks.
Yep,
He's
I
just
see
not
the
getting a
11.
lot
Yeah.
of yardage or touchdowns to go with them. But I like him today. I like him this week. I'm going to give him 3.75 stars. Don't love him, but I like him. Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, I am going to give him 5 stars. I know. We know Chris. He's not a good NFL quarterback, real NFL
Doesn't
quarterback.
matter. Doesn't
But
matter.
we're talking about fantasy here, and in fantasy, yes, please.
The I
The
can't get the right side. The logo says amazing fantasy
yeah.
football.
The Chargers may be giving up the 4th fewest points per game to quarterbacks at 15.7, but they're giving up the 9th most rushing yards per game to quarterbacks. What does Hurts do well? That's right, run the ball. 5 stars for Mr. Hurts. Boston Scott.
Oof. Nice. Okay.
On to Boston Scott. I guess he's the guy to replace Miles Sanders. So much for those 12 fab dollars I spent on Kenny Gainwell. The Chargers are still the worst against running backs, so 3.75 stars to Boston Scott.
I don't like this team. I don't like this team.
Speaking of Kenny Gainwell, let's say you spent 12 fab dollars on Kenny Gainwell.
Yeah.
Guy, could you play him out of desperation against the? Sure, you could. 2 stars.
Full PPR.
Doesn't matter. Dallas Goedert. The Chargers are 3rd worst against the tight end. So, I mean, okay. So if you're bad against running backs and you're bad against tight ends, that means you got some linebacker problems. Possibly a safety problem, too.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyways, Dallas Goedert has 2 10-point weeks sans Zach Ertz. That means since Zach Ertz has left, he's had 10 points, at least 10 points in each week. Slightly above 10 points. And both of those 10-point games came without a touchdown. So 4.5 stars for Mr.
That's volume.
Goedert.
I love it. Love it.
Do you have him in Dynasty too?
No, I do not.
Okay, then.
I like the player.
For Goedert.
Goedert.
Is
that it?
French. What's your last matchup, Monsieur Lala?
Oh, goodness gracious, sir. It is my last. Let's keep this train rolling. Titans at Rams. This is the juicy one in a manner of speaking.
Ooh,
and we've obviously got some big injury update news here. If you haven't heard, if you're living under a rock. Let's address it in somewhat of a.
Did my rocket injured, Chris?
It could have.
Okay.
It sounded like you said your rocket, and I was worried you're talking about your red rocket, and I got frightened there for a moment.
I don't have
On to the quarterback for the Titans. Tannehill has put together 2 usable fantasy starts in a row. And last week, A.J. Brown and the quarterback hooked up early and often. Still, we know what Tannehill is at this point in the season, and the loss of Derrick Henry hurts the whole offense. I mean, I think we could see them pass more maybe, but I'm still not sure that's a good thing. I'd probably bench Tannehill regardless of Henry's presence versus the Rams. So I will do just that. I will give him a bench rating. On to the runners. I am on the McNichols hype train in fantasy terms to an extent. I think he can catch a lot of dump-offs in negative game scripts, garbage time, etc. And maybe help facilitate the run game a little bit with a short passing game. That has basically been non-existent in Tennessee up to this point. I think maybe Henry broke like a screen like 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago for like 70 yards or something. But other than that,
he's the mountain dude. He's the mountain of fantasy football.
Exactly. But other than that, their underneath game to the receivers and the tight ends and their underneath game to the running backs has just been kind of non-existent. In fact, but I don't think for 1 second that McNichols will be alone in the backfield after the addition of Adrian Peterson. In fact, some considered Darren Evans the backup to Henry in the offseason, not McNichols. Obviously, Darren Evans got hurt, so that, if not was the deciding factor, definitely made a big difference. I have hope McNichols has matured since getting drafted by Tampa. And the Titans do seem to like him, but I am only cautiously optimistic and was surprised some managers spent what they did on him this week. I thought they would follow the name value in Adrian Peterson, but we're talking about this week specifically, so let's get on to that. We won't see AP, I assume, this week, and McNichols has a tough matchup. So I'd like to wait and see, but I'll go on a limb here and be ever so slightly aggressive with 2.5 stars for Jeremy McNichols. bench the rest of the possibly active runners for the Titans. On to A.J. Brown. The Rams give up quite a few passing yards, actually, the 7th most to be exact, but only 9 passing touchdowns on the year, 5th best. A.J. Brown is coming off his 2nd best game and could see more targets with Derrick Henry out. But I wouldn't be surprised if A.J. Brown becomes the only viable fantasy option in Henry's absence. A.J. Brown will, of course, draw Jalen Ramsey in coverage, so that's not good. But the Rams just gave up 83 yards and a touchdown to Brandon Cooks. So I think A.J. Brown can have a decent day based on volume and his performance of late, specifically his last 2 games. I'm going to give him 3.75 stars. On to the Rams. Stafford. I don't think we need the weekly reminder that Tennessee has a bad defense or how good Stafford is, or how good Stafford has been tossing the ball lately. He's
amazing.
The quarterback. Exactly. He's the quarterback 3 on the season. Let's just give Stafford 5 stars and move on. Darrell Henderson is the RB11 on the season, fantasy speaking, of course. The Titans aren't too bad versus the run, actually. 8th best, giving up about 100 yards per game, and give up the 11th fewest fantasy points to running backs. But they haven't played a ton of good backs, and when they have, specifically James Robinson, Jonathan Taylor last week, they've given up over 70 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Except the first time they played Jonathan Taylor and the Colts. And in that game, Nyheim Hines scored. Henderson has looked good and has 5 rushing touchdowns and 2 receiving touchdowns on the season. He will get scoring opportunities in this high-powered offense, and this week is no different. Top 5 guy for me this week, 5 stars. But keep an eye on Andrew Whitworth's status. He's questionable with a knee injury. On to the receivers, Kupp and Woods. I'll make this quick. Titans give up the most fantasy points to wide receivers and the 5th most. I literally typed rushing yards. I'm going to assume they give up the 5th most passing yards in the league. And in case you haven't heard, Stafford is pretty good. I'm going to give 5 stars to Kupp and 3.5 stars to Woods. On to the tight end, Higbee. Higbee has to score to even be close to fantasy relevance. And the Titans just held Kelsey to 65 scoreless yards 2 weeks ago. And last week, Jack Doyle did score, but only had 12 yards. I think I'm done with Higbee for now. Check your waiver wire to see if Dawson Knox was dropped by somebody, and pick up a bet. And for this week specifically, pick up a better tight end.
Yeah, you stole Dawson Knox in our Friends with Benefits league.
Yeah,
for $5. I was like, I was so busy like at the beginning.
I feel like I could have got it for 0.
I spaced free agency. Work has been kind of
to the point of my notes.
Lately.
I specifically own Higbee. Manage Higbee in that league, and I dropped Higbee for Knox. I was like, what is Knox do? But moreover, to my point to our listeners and watchers, please, pick up a different tight end for this week. Pick up a better tight end dart throw for this week over Higbee. But if you can add Knox on your roster moving forward, he should be back pretty dang soon. So I'm going to go and bench.
You're talking
Tyler
maybe
Higbee
next week for Dawson Knox.
Exactly, that's what I'm getting at. But I'm going to go and bench Tyler Higbee this week. That's
last
the end of my matchup.
Is that your last matchup?
Yep.
Let's move along to the Arizona Cardinals
quick
at the
interruption.
San Francisco 49ers.
Sorry. Quick interruption. I didn't mean to interrupt your snazzy intro there. We're at 1:10, so we're doing good. Keep it up.
Let's move along to the Arizona Cardinals at the San Francisco 49ers. This matchup is completely contingent on whether Kyler Murray will play with his ankle.
How bad is it? Gosh darn it.
He didn't practice today. It sounds like he's a true game time decision. I don't know why I'm still talking like Bill McNeil. Anyways, so if Kyler can't go, oh, sweet fancy Moses, it's Colt McCoy. Why?
I mean, is he like a top 5, top 10 backup in the league, though?
What?
Isn't he still a decent backup, though? Like, isn't he like...
No.
Might throw 2 touchdowns?
Anyways, Chase Edmonds. Let's just move along to... sorry to cut you off, but we're not going down that rabbit hole.
If
Kyler Murray can't go, I'm giving Chase Edmonds 3.25 stars. If Kyler does, I'm giving him 3.5. James Conner... Without Kyler, 2 2 3/4 stars. How am I supposed to believe that the fake McCoy is going to propel this offense to get anywhere close to the end zone for Connor to do his touchdown magic? If Kyler is in, I'm giving James Conner also 3.5 stars, like I did to Chase Edmonds. Zach Ertz, you're getting 1 star without Kyler, and you're getting 3.75 stars with. Can you tell I didn't write anything down there? DeAndre Hopkins, he gets the talent respect. So without Kyler 3, and with Kyler 4.25 stars. We haven't really mentioned it all this week yet, folks. I'm being pretty vague because it's like the injury news about Kyler is really vague. So tune into our Sunday morning stream, which starts at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time, where Chris and I go over some last minute news, last minute injuries, some lineup questions, just kind of screwing around with chatting with people in the comment in the chat and everything.
Tune in early to get the actionable advice, but then stick around for some coffee and laughs,
and some BS. Maybe Chris will be drunk again.
What?
Let's move along to the 49ers side of the ball here. Eliza Mitchell, he has over 100 yards and a touchdown in 2 straight games. He's looked good in those 2 games. The Cards are allowing 92.5 yards per game on the ground, but only a quarter of a touchdown per game. So I still like Mitchell here. And I'm giving him 3 3/4 stars here, 4.25 stars if Kyler doesn't play. This all comes with a caveat: there's the definite possibility of Jeff Wilson playing, which throws a small monkey wrench into the situation. Or what? A small monkey into the wrench? A small whatever. I ain't scared to start Elijah Mitchell. I'm not really scared about Jeff Wilson.
I mean, check your lineup before kickoff for sure, but yeah.
Yeah, I think Elijah Mitchell has shown enough to Shanahan, and he's played well enough at least the last couple of weeks to at least garner 50 to 2/3 of the playing time already. So whatever. Deebo Samuel, I'm going to give him 4 stars. While the Cardinals corners may not be terrible, Deebo Samuel has been excellent. He is PFF's number 5 graded wide receiver so far on the season. And fantasy-wise, he ain't far behind that either. I am loving Deebo on my fantasy squad, and I would love to give him 5 stars this week, but I can't. I have to be realistic here. I'm going to give him 4 stars. He's been my bread and butter. Deebo Samuel has been my bread, whereas Elijah Mitchell has been my butter. With Kittle practicing this week, it sounds like there's a good shot that Kittle actually plays. And that's got to at least help Deebo a little, take a little bit of coverage off of Deebo and whatever. Like I said, 4 stars for Deebo. George Kittle here. If Kittle is able to play this week, I would like everyone to remember what his first 4 weeks were like. Not that great. Week 1.
He was hurt. Yep.
He wasn't hurt in like weeks 1 and 2, though. That's the thing. Or even 3.
I think
he was definitely hurt in week 4.
Well, he was designated, so I think he was. Go ahead. I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
In week 1, he caught 4 out of 5 targets for 78 yards. Not bad. Week 2, 4 out of 4 targets, but only for 17 yards. This is I think that week 2 might have been the Trey Lance game. By the way, I don't remember per se.
There was one in the early weeks. Yes, correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Week 3, he caught 7 of 9 yards for 92 yards. Good. Week 4, and this is where I think the injury really kicked in, was 4 out of 10 targets for 40 yards. Yeah. So I'm giving George Kittle 3 3/4 stars, and that's a lot of for namesake and talent and everything, and hoping that he's healthy when he's coming off of this stir here, which would be the short-term IR. He still doesn't have a touchdown this season, but it's also been some mediocre quarterbacking he's had to deal with in the 4 weeks that he has played.
Absolutely.
That's been the show, Chris. That's been the show. That's it.
I would like to pat both me and you on the back for being to the point and concise. Sure, we had 4 teams on bye, but I think it was a great show. I'd like to toss it back to you for some housekeeping.
I was gonna say, Chris, we're not done with the show yet. Like I just mentioned not that long ago, but do tune in to our Sunday stream. It's usually a good amount of fun. I have been very under the weather the last couple of weeks. Last week I
sure,
was
yeah.
a fever, but I did manage to show up for it. The week before that, I had a
Mhm.
stomach bug or something. I don't know what was going on with me, but it was
Right, right.
definitely some digestional issues of some sort. Let's
Incapacitating.
just put it that
Yeah.
way. Anyways, so check it out. 10 a.m. Central Standard Time. We don't know where you live. You do the math. We do know where you live, though.
Right here on YouTube.
Yep. Right
And if
here
you're
on
listening to us in
YouTube. If you are
podcasts,
listening to us in podcast format, you can always check out the shows in YouTube and video format on our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube, search for Amazing Fantasy Football. Should pop right up. That's where you can find the stream. Give us a sub, and then you get a notification, or you can click the bell too, and you'll get a notification when we go live. If you are watching us in YouTube format, you can always check us out in podcast format. Pretty much where every podcasts are available. Please leave us a review if you do so. If you can, in those respective podcast review leaving format places, which is mainly just Podcast Addict and iTunes nowadays. But anyways, until Sunday, catch you later.
adios.
If you like pina coladas, getting caught in the rain, gonna do some singing, 'cause we got under 120.